Hello underwater friends. You like to take pictures underwater, but when you do, you're not always happy with the result. In this video, we're gonna work on Lightroom Classic, and I'm gonna show you how I do my color correction. I picked a few pictures, actually 5 of them, and we're gonna work a little bit on color correcting those pictures. So, first of all, one of the very important things to change is this one, what is called lens correction. Depending on the lens you have, sometimes there will be problems and the application will be able to help us. So, you want to remove chromatic aberration and enable profile correction. And normally, Lightroom will be able to see which lens you used. So for me, it was the 1635 Sony f4. And after that, I work pretty much from top to bottom. So first of all, you may want to change the framing of your picture. So you use crop. For this picture, I like it because you have enough space in front of the shark that gives you like the feeling of movement and everything. Maybe we're gonna go on a different type of format, which is gonna be 16:9, and I think I like it better. So 16:9, I press enter, and now I have more of the subject. Recently I've been doing lots of 16:9 pictures because that's what I use for my thumbnail, and if I want to add it to a video or anything, then it would be nice. On top here you have a couple of things that you can change. This one is a spot removal. So for example this one, you don't like it, or here you think it's disturbing, you don't like this fish. With this picture it's quite easy because the background is blue, so it's just picking blue somewhere else and then it's correcting. The bubbles, maybe I don't want so many bubbles because I want to keep my shark as the only subject. You can move like this the place where Lightroom takes the image that is going to be instead of the one you had. You can get this one bigger or smaller. Okay, so a little bit here more. I think those two were not efficient, so I do backspace. Maybe I get it wider and I try to remove it in one time. You see, like this, we took the shark and I don't want that. So by doing like this, then we don't have the problem anymore. So now it's just the shark. Here you can do red eye correction, but we don't have the problem with the sharks. Here it's a graduated filter, so you just select it and then you go on one of the corner or in the bottom or everywhere you want, and then you just go up and then you select it. For us, maybe we want it a little bit darker, so I double click here and I can get, for example, a little bit more shadows, more black, and we would have like the feeling that it's lit more from the top than the bottom. To check your picture before and after, you just do Y. You press Y and then in my case, you have the before on the left and the after on the right. Let's go back on this one, graduated filter. You see the dot here, you can just click on it and then decide how much you want it to be. You can do most of the color corrections, the basic things, but pick a zone. Here this one, radial filter, it's going to allow you to do either a circle and then same thing again, you can choose. You can decide to invert it, so now it's just selecting the inside and you also have feather that is gonna make it a sharp edge or an edge that is not sharp. You press O and then you're gonna see what zone is affected. And it's gonna give it a red color that makes it easier to see what's going on. But this one actually we don't want, it's just to show you. And this one is the same thing except that you paint an area and then this area will be affected. So I can do O. So you see I can get it completely black by taking off the exposure. But like I said, that's not what we want either. So I'm just gonna work on the picture itself. So what do we have? This should be completely white and it's not. Here we can see by passing on top here of this one that it's not peaking really, and we're actually missing highlights. So let's try to highlights a little bit, white as well, oh, not so much, a little, and then maybe shadows down to have a little contrast. I don't like to work on exposure and contrast too much because I can do it all with highlight, shadow, white and black, and I think it's more efficient. Here I have a plus, so by clicking somewhere on the picture I can just get it to the 1:1 ratio. Okay, next, texture is gonna add some texture to, you see, if it's completely low it's all blurry, and if it was full it will be like very sharp. In this one I want to add a little, but not so much. Maybe +10 would be cool. +7. Clarity is gonna make the subject pop out a little bit more, but it would be too much like this. And dehaze would make it completely disappear or be very dark. So this one we won't touch it. On top we have the temperature. So this one is very yellow, this one is very blue. By double clicking I go back to where it was before, and maybe I want a little bit warmer and probably a little bit magenta. You can see that this is whiter. We have a problem a little bit with noise, but it's gonna be in the later on that we're gonna correct it. Actually it's because the clarity is probably so high. Yeah, we have it a little bit less. And then on this one you can choose hue, saturation, luminance, it's HLS color. On this one you can change the colors. Actually this one is blue, where you can go from a very magenta blue to an almost green. You don't want to correct it too much, otherwise it would look very fake, but a little bit can definitely help. My goal on this picture is to try to get the white very white, the dark a little bit darker, and the blue to be a nice blue background. Saturation will just add or remove saturation on the colors you pick. So for the blue, if I have no saturation, it would end up like this. And probably I want to add a little. Do I need purple? Is it gonna change anything on this picture? Not really. And luminance would be the same. So this would be with and this would be without. Okay, so you can understand those cursors. Next one, we can have highlight and saturation, and then shadow and saturation. It's split toning. So here you can pick the color you want to add in the highlights and the color you want to add in the shadows. So let's try to see with a 20 saturation, and you're gonna see by moving this cursor, I'm gonna get the color very different. You can see in this rectangle what color is gonna be applied. I think this kind of blue, but maybe 10 would be enough, 10, 11. And in the shadows, same thing. I add saturation, and then I can pick what colors I want for the shadows. Maybe that kind of gray would be nice. Now we can already do Y again to see the difference between the two pictures. We have much more contrast here. Sharpening would help get the picture sharper. But then we have extra noise coming up. And then noise reduction, because we don't want so much noise. So I can get it bigger and see how much noise I want to take off. Probably like this would be nice. Those are 42 megapixel pictures because I took it with my A7R3. So of course you have some noise, but when you see the picture in a normal size, there is nothing. Okay, I guess this one is kind of okay. One of the things that you can do at the beginning is to try to do a white balance by using this white balance selector, but then you need to correct it a little. So that's what you had before and after. I think the shark pops out much better, and it's really much nicer than it was. One of the things you can do when you're at this point and you're quite happy, you can do a snapshot. And then, for example, I can call it OK and enter. Like this, even if I do Shift Ctrl R and I go back to the first picture, I can always go back to my picture and see what I ended up having. So now I can work on it a little. I didn't like this, I want to change that. Oh, horrible. But now in the history, it's so many things that it's difficult to come back. Well, what do? I just click on my snapshot, which was OK, and then I have it. Depending on the day, depending on how you feel and everything, you're gonna do different color correction. So it's not bad to take a snapshot at the end of the sequence and decide later on if you like it or not. When you do color correcting on pictures, it's very important also to have a good monitor. A calibrated monitor would be the best option, because like this you have the real picture, the real colors, and then when you decide you want to print it, then it's really what it's supposed to be. Okay, that was the first one. Number two, a nice seahorse. What kind of problem do we have? Well, the green is way too green. The animal is okay, but I think it could be a little bit more yellow, and it doesn't pop out in the frame. So we're gonna try to get it back. So first of all, like we said, you go here. This one was with the 90mm macro. I remove chromatic aberration, enable profile correction, and then I can start from top to bottom. Do I need to work on specific areas? Not really. Do I want to reframe the picture? Maybe a little. Normally, if you're using the rule of thirds, the most important thing in your picture should be at the crossing of those third lines. But I think by having it like this, it's enough. My subject is here, there is enough space in front of it, and it looks quite okay. Now, what I can do is I can try to take my white balance selector, pick a part of the picture, like the sand, and try like this. As you can see, there is a big difference between the before and after. You can see before it was all green, now it's all brown. So why again to go back? Maybe it's a little bit too much, but it always gives us, not always, but very often it gives us a good starting point. Now I can tweak those two cursors and get it to something I like better. So here I will make it a little bit colder, a little bit more green, and that's something I would like better. We go down, so like I said, I don't like exposure and contrast too much. As we can see on the histogram, here the darks are not very dark and the highlights are not very bright. So what we can do is bring up a little highlight. As you can see, the histogram is moving to the right, and add a little white as well. And to counterbalance it, I'm gonna use a little shadow and a little black. I think it's too much white, even though it doesn't peak or anything. And maybe now I want to warm up my picture a little bit because it feels a little too cold. Okay, why? To see what's going on. As we can see, the subject is popping out much better from the background, and the background does look much nicer compared to what it was before, where it was all green. But now it feels like we have a problem in this area. It's too bright, and that's not what we want. All of this seems to be too bright, and actually it's a problem because that's not the subject, and our eyes will be attracted with this light. So what I can do is use the graduated filter, which I'm gonna maybe bring down exposure like this, and then I can go like this. By pressing O, you can see which zone is affected by it. Exposure might not be the thing I want, but maybe I want to take off some white. A little. Maybe a little highlight as well. Maybe shadows even. And black. But now the problem we have is the color is not the same, because this was actually correcting from the previous one. Let's see again. You see, this became darker. You don't want to work too much on things like this, and we have a couple of points that are annoying. Most of the time you may want to remove dots that will bring the attention. Because otherwise you won't see your main subject. Okay. So we have already a much better picture than it was before. Texture is going to bring us more contrast or make it a little bit flat. A little bit more would be better. Clarity. And dehaze a little. Okay, this will never end up being the picture of the year, but we can see here why it's already much nicer than it was. Okay, same as before, saturation, hue. So hue will change the color itself, so maybe we don't want to change a little bit of the color of the Seahorse with the yellow, and maybe the orange and the green. Nothing is red, so it's not changing anything. And maybe for the background, yes. You see, by getting our background a bit more blue. The good point about this one is that it doesn't affect the Seahorse itself, but it just affects the background, you see? Because the background would be very green, or so now it's probably better like this. Y again to check what we have. I think it's better already. And probably we want to remove some noise. You can see here it's kind of noisy. So doing like this, and we have something better. Now that we took out the green from the background, what we may want to do is warm up the picture a little bit. The good thing is it's going to warm up the seahorse and the background, so it's going to make the yellow of the seahorse pop out better, but still having a nice background. I've worked on that picture already before, and I ended up having something a little bit different. Ctrl Z to go back. It was warmer, and I do understand. Here's probably what we want. Don't be surprised if you give the same picture to two different people, it will end up different, and even you, on different days, you will have the different mood or anything that will change completely your picture. Next one, the Pygmy Seahorse. We don't have so many problems on this one. I just don't like the blue of the background, and probably I would reframe it a little because the subject is a little bit lost in this whole picture. Maybe like that. I have a problem with this area that is very white, but I don't know if I will be able to correct it really. Let's try like this. Click O. Okay. A little bit here. Yeah. Okay. O again. And in this one we're gonna try to warm it up a little and maybe take out some white. The reason I'm doing this here is because this part was really disturbing, and that was pretty much the only thing we could see because it was so white that by making it more blend with the rest, it looks better. Okay, now I get off this, and I like it better. It's not perfect, of course, but you don't really see the difference, and now it's less disturbing. Okay, do we try an automatic white balance? Why not? Where could it be? Oh, on the gray here. Okay, it's much warmer and much more magenta. Là. Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z. By double clicking, you get it back to where it was. So yeah, probably a little bit magenta. I have a problem here with a spot. No, I want it from here. Spot removal is much better with Photoshop than it is with Lightroom, but already with Lightroom we can do things that are okay. Histogram is quite okay, but probably we need a little bit more shadow to make it more contrast. Maybe a little bit black as well. Here you can see if we have a problem, you can click on this triangle, this one and this one, and if I had some and if I had some lost information, it would appear in blue. So here's pretty much the maximum I can get without damaging the picture. Texture a little bit more. We can see that the subject is popping out better. Clarity as well. And dehaze. Let's try and before and after. You can see the blue of the background is way better, even though it's too magenta for me. So I'll remove a little bit. But the blue is nicer and the Seahorse pops out better. So I like it a little bit better. Yeah. We have a problem here because the Seahorse changes color when I move the background. So let's try to see with the blue if we can get it like this, purple, aqua. And then for the yellow, I'm gonna get it a little bit warmer. And the orange as well. Why again? Now I like it better because I had a problem with the Seahorse being a little bit green, and now we don't have this issue. We can see that it's better. Okay, why? I'm not gonna change split tones, sharpening no, and do I need noise reduction? Maybe a little. So I go luminance. And I decide how much. Here we go. And I'm gonna reframe a little bit. Okay. There is no one way to do a picture, but this one seems to be okay. If you have time, it's always good to go on a picture a few times. Like I just said before, depending on the day, you won't have the same feeling, you won't see the same things, and you won't need to make the same changes. So by going back on a picture that you already changed, you can make corrections that you wouldn't think about the first time and that end up getting your picture better. So for now, I'm gonna add a snapshot. Okay, enter, and now, oh, I call it OKL, works. Next one, a little ghost pipe. The subject is very long and we have lots of the picture on the top and bottom that is pointless. So probably I'm gonna go on 16:9 and maybe change the angle a little. That's our subject, and the top and the bottom are very boring. There is not much going on. We have problem with those dots on top. I'm not gonna remove them all. This is the very annoying part of color correction when you have to remove backscatter like this, but needs to be done. So as you can see, I removed the backscatter from the top, and I will do it later when I'm not recording. But also I can remove those like white little rocks and things like this that would get our attention too much. This is our subject. That's where you want your eyes to be. Why did I cut it this way? Same again. It's not the rule of third really, but it's a little bit on top. and I give space in the front of my fish, which is one of the best, one of the good ways to make it dynamic. If, for example, I had cut the picture like this, well, maybe it would be good for marine biologists or things like this, people that want to put it in a book, but I think it's very flat. By doing so, I have something I like better. So what are the problems now? Well, the background, it shouldn't be all green. So let's try with this one. Again, white balance selector. As you can see on the left top side, you can see how it's affecting your picture depending on where you put your cursor. I think this one, I like it because you really have the blue of the top and the white of the sand in the bottom. It is way too much, I know, but like we said, it's a start. So now I can add a little bit blue, remove a little magenta, and now by checking Y, I can see that the result is much better. Now, what do we have? It's all on the right side, so it's not enough shadows and highlight and black. So we add shadow, we add black, and now we see our histogram is much more even. We're not picking on highlights, but do we need to take out some white? Maybe a little, but then we can bring back some shadow and probably highlight. Okay. We have the same problem as before. The bottom is lit a lot, so we can try to go on gradient filter. Maybe I will take out some white. Of course, I don't want to change the color. I will remove some highlight a little. Oh, no, not contrast, highlight. Here we go. And do I need more black? Yeah, a little. I can move it like this, turn it here. Okay. Looks better. Okay. Why? To see the before and after. I really think it's much, much better in a few clicks. I'm bothered with this one, so I'm going to take it off. Up. Okay. When you do spot removal, I recommend you to do it with the full size picture, because you see we have many spots here, but when we get the picture just to fit, then we don't see it at all. Maybe I will try to work on the blue a little, yes, to make it a little bit more blue instead of green. Maybe the green, to make it warmer, just to get the ghost pipe to pop better. You see this one is like yawning, the mouth is way open. The eye is sharp. Well, I think it's better. Texture, clarity. I think adding a little bit texture and clarity gets the ghost pipe to pop out better. I'm gonna do one more little thing. Okay, it's all back to 0. I'm gonna select this area because this is too bright for me. I'm just gonna get it a little bit darker. Okay, why? To see before after, and I think we're not so bad. Noise, I think we're kind of okay. We can try to remove a little bit, but there's no need too much. Okay. Next one. Okay, two divers. As we can see, this one was lit with a strobe. There were probably two strobe actually, because we see some backscatter here. But the problem is the second subject was a little bit too far, so it was not lit enough. So we can already start to do a white balance. So let's try to do it on this gray here. And now it's too much, so remove a little, this one as well. We can see the foreground is still lit properly. The hand seems to be a normal color, but our background is much more natural. You see the hands is green and everything is bad. Same thing also, the background was a little bit green, when here it's blue. So I think just by doing one correction like this, we have a very good change. I don't like backscatter, but hey, when it's here, it's here. What can I do? Okay, I remove a few, but I'm not gonna spend an hour on that. Okay, it's just like this, it won't bother me when I look at it. When you see the histogram, it's all the way from, from the left to the right. It's not peaking or anything, but maybe we can just, especially for this part, add a little black. Here we go. We don't want it to be peaking. And then here we can probably add a little highlight. Here we go. Do we need white? Probably a little as well. Oh, you can see here, starting to peak on the bubbles. So a little bit less white. Okay. So you see this one, I'm not gonna correct it more because the picture was cool already to start with. Yes, there are some things that we can remove here, but it's just time consuming and that's not the purpose. But this picture, I mean, I really appreciate the composition because you have a nice line like this, the diagonal line, the main subject is on the rule of third line. The background is nice. I mean, there is no need to work more on that. And if you can see from Y and Z, the subject in the background is much nicer, the blue is better, so why bother? You know, sometimes all you want is to change the color. I mean, all you want is to change your picture a little bit to have some things that pop out better, but there is no need to spend hours on a picture. I know some people with, of course, I'm going to remove the backscatter because it doesn't look okay. But other than that, I'm not going to spend so much time on it. Next picture, okay, a cardinal fish with eggs. Here we can see that we have a problem because it's overexposed. Now it's okay. So what do we have? All of this is pointless. We don't need lots of backscatter. So let's reframe the picture. 16 by 9 and try to remove this part that is not useful. Bam. A little bit more maybe. Let's try to put it back on 4 by 3. Like this we can concentrate on our subject. No, I don't like it. 16 by 9. Yeah. The line here for the eye, even though the subject is also the eggs. Probably like this. No. Okay. All of this is pointless. You see, when you want to do your reframing, resizing the picture, it's always good to see what you're taking out. Is there something important? Yeah, here of course I try to get this part in one of the intersections and the eye as well, but if I do like this, then I bring back this one, but I lose some of my fish. So it might not be what I want. Do I want to take out some of the jaw? Not really. So like this is probably a good option. Then of course now I'm gonna have to take all of the backscatter out, even though it's backscatter, it's not edge hatching. You see here there are still problems with peaking. You see, you can see this here. Maybe I can take off a little bit of exposure. And actually take off some white. And now we can even bring down the shadows and the black. You can see if I go left, up, okay. Okay, I take out some of the backscatter to see better. I'm gonna do it for some of them, not all. Okay, it's enough for now. Okay, let's do those anyway, doesn't hurt. One of the worst things would be to have distracting dots like this that would get your attention in the wrong part of the image. Okay, well, still a little. Oh, what's wrong? Backspace. Backspace. Come on. They're everywhere. Okay, try to see a little bit. So what do we have? I think this one is too dark, I mean too cold. Especially the top of the fish is too cold for me. So maybe what I can try to do is to get this top part press O. If you press Alt, then you get minus, so you can remove it. Oh, I'm moving it, that's not what I want. Oh, a little bit for the top. Okay. So, O again, and what do we want to do on this one is to get it a little bit warmer. You see, now we're just working on this part of the fish, and we can see the before and after, so the rest is still quite the same, but now the top of the animal is much better. Here we have this one that tells us it's too dark, so we're gonna get off this and then probably take off a little bit shadow and some black. Okay, this is a little distracting and not very interesting, so I can select it like this and then get it a little bit darker. Okay. As we can see, there is still peaking parts, but it doesn't feel like a problem. You see, it's just like some places where it's a little bit white and shiny, but it doesn't bother me so much. I really have a problem to decide how to make the framing of this picture. Maybe here. Okay, so I hope you liked it. Like I said, there is not one way to correct the pictures. There are many more things I could change on all of them. But I'm showing you first the most important things. You know, like some of the pictures, like the first one of the shark, I really felt like I needed to add contrast and get the subject to pop better. So that's why I did many tiny color adjustments to get it better. When it was the second one, it was mainly on the background that was a problem and that we couldn't see the seahorse. The Pygmy seahorse was also not popping out a lot, so I get it to pop out a little bit better, and I changed also the colors because it all looked green and was not very pleasing. This one, big difference, but we only used the top two adjustments and it was enough. For this one, almost nothing to do. The color was already quite good, the subject was nice, and in a few clicks we were able to get a pretty decent picture. And the final one, we corrected the top part of it and removed some backscatter and get it to, you know, look a little bit better. So I know people that try to overdo it a lot and will spend hours on one picture. Yeah, of course, if your goal is to do a competition or a large print, yes, you can work on your picture a little bit longer and try to make it as good as possible. But don't forget that in a few clicks and the first couple of minutes you're going to spend on a picture are going to be the one where you can correct most things, and the rest will just do minor correction that won't be as significant, and the time spent for the rest would be so much more important for minor changes that it may not be very efficient. Okay, I hope you like this video, and if you want to see more of it, don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button to be notified for new videos when they come out. There is a whole series on how I do underwater pictures, so don't hesitate to check it. The link is right there. Bye bye, see you next time.